Hey there, it's Jesus and Tiffany. Ah, this is the last day of the month, last day of the year. And I have been reading a book that I've read before. I read it twice before. And it has this phrase through it, Queer Christ. And I thought I understood that. Queer Christ. I'm queer in the community. And so I thought, okay, Jesus is kind of like me. Or is supportive of me. And I thought that was it. And I had my pastor read this book and give me her comments. And she was looking at it like, okay, is Jesus a gay? Is he a man? Is he a woman? Is he androgynous? And I wasn't getting where she was coming from. I was kind of, but not all the way. But then read through this last time. Get to the second to the last chapter. I finally understood. Jesus is like us. The queer Christ he's talking about, at least from my perspective, is that when we come into a space, let's say a church, like I've done several times, I got just this there, and we kind of upset things. We make people uncomfortable. They have fears. They have thoughts. They have a hard time loving us. Some do, some don't. But we upset their status quo. We upset the privilege that's there. And let's see what else. Privilege. And just, the way things are run. And you look at Jesus now. And he's starting his ministry. What's he doing about the first time? He's healing people, yes, and preaching. But then he goes in the temple. And he sees money changers, people selling doves, which I was told were supposed to be free because they're for the poor people. Doves and pigeons were for the poor people. So they didn't sell those really. That's what I was told anyway. And then there's the people selling the cattle, the sheep. And so Jesus gets upset and he makes a whip and he chases them all out and he says, this is my Father's house. It is supposed to be a house of prayer, not a house of thieves. And he chases them out and tips over the money tables. And he caused a lot of commotion. He was upsetting the status quo. And he was upsetting their privilege of people. And the way things are done. And then another thing. He's out preaching stuff. And it's about the end of his ministry. He's come from Jericho going to Jerusalem. And this guy, Zacchaeus, who is a tax collector, the chief tax collector, is short. He wants to see Jesus. He can't see above crowds, so he climbs this tree. And Jesus stops, looks up in the tree, says, Zacchaeus, I'm going to eat at your house today. And this upset the religious leaders. Oh my, he's going to the house of a sinner. But what Jesus did was change Zacchaeus. He said, Lord, I give half of what I have to the poor. I'll give, I think he said, 3 or 4 times as much back if I have cheated anybody. And Jesus says, today the kingdom of God has come to this house. This man. For he is a child of Abraham. And then we see Jesus in another spot. He's teaching, and these people come dragging this poor lady caught in adultery to him and says to him, Jesus, we caught this woman in the act of adultery. Shall we stone her? And he doesn't pay much attention. He stoops down, writes in the dirt, and they say, Rabbi, what are we going to do? Are we going to stone her or not? And he gets up again and he says, the one who is without sin gets to throw the first stone. And then he stoops back down to write. And this lady is standing there. I don't know what's going through her head, but mine would be, am I going to get stoned or what's going to happen here? And one by one, as it says in the Bible, from the oldest to the youngest, they start dropping their rocks. And I believe they started seeing that they too were sinners. And Jesus finally gets up and says to her, where's your accusers? And she says, there are none. He says, neither do I accuse you. And we as queer people need to bring that love into a community or wherever we are. Because one of the things I've seen in the queer community is love for each other. We do get into tizzy fits or whatever, but there is more love there and support because we've all been beat up and in some way or another. And we have found that it's important to love others. And Jesus' example of loving others. Then you got another example of Jesus messing up the status quo, the way things are. Just not doing what everybody else does. Really rubbing people the wrong way, you might say. He's in this synagogue, and there's a man with a withered hand. And Jesus asks the people, the religious leaders that were there, on the Sabbath, is it okay to do good deeds or to do bad deeds? To heal or to kill? And no one answers. And Jesus calls the man up and says, stretch out your hand. And this man's hand was restored. And they are upset because he did this on the Sabbath. And he wasn't supposed to do that. But, according to their rules, I should say. But he healed them. That man gave him back his life, you might say, because he healed that arm. He wasn't an outcast anymore. And we too can reach out to each other. We've had to help others of our community up, to support them, to make them feel welcomed. But we can also do it to other people in communities, in places we're at, to lift them up, the ones that are looked down on by others. But Jesus was doing all this stuff of messing up the status quo. Those with privilege should not have to do the work to make things better for the marginalized. But that's what Jesus calls us to do. If we have privilege, we need to be helping those that are marginalized. And I'm white. And I have to look around me. Of course, my whole community is pretty much white. But I got to look at who's the marginalized people in here. In the summer, people come up from Mexico to do work. Marginalized people. I have to figure out, how am I going to help them? And I have asked some black people how things are going for them. They say, they don't have any problem, which I am thankful for, that they aren't. But in other places of the state, they're marginalized. And I have to support them. There's the homeless people. People who are poorer than me. I have to be willing to help them, to touch their lives, to show that love. And now that I've said that word, what does Jesus say love looks like? He said, love your enemies. And that's not easy. But he's calling us to step into our discomfort, the hard place, the place we don't want to be, and love our enemy. Do good to those who hate you. Yeah, that doesn't work out too good sometimes. The pastor that caused me the most grief, I baked a pie for and brought him that pie. And I was discouraged when I left because He didn't even thank me for the pie. He just said, well, we see things different. And trying to justify his actions. I don't know if the pie had any effect on him or not. I don't know if he ate it. But he took it. And then it says, bless those who curse you. We can do that by praying for them. Praying for these people who are our enemies, are the people who hate us, the people who curse us, who don't want us around. We gotta be willing to do like Jesus did. And when he hung on the cross, it said that he prayed for the people. There was the religious leaders. There was the Romans nailing him to that cross. There was the jeers, the ones that were crying, crucify him. But he loved them. And that's what he calls us to do. Bless those people with love. And then he said, pray for those who persecute you and use you. And that is possible. We can do it. Especially when we got Jesus in here. Because with Jesus in me, I can do these things. I can pray for the people who hurt me and do me wrong. But I can pray for them. And the book that I read, I don't know if I said what it was, but it's Hearts Ablaze by Rolf Nolesko, who is a theologian down near Chicago. He's Filipino, and he's felt persecution as a colored person, and he also as a gay man. But he wrote this amazing book. To me, it's amazing because it brings me closer to Jesus. See, each chapter is a little different on the parables, but the one that really got to me was the Good Shepherd. Because I am one of God's children. I am one of his sheep, just like anybody else that goes to church. We're his sheep, and he watches over us, and he loves us. And some of us get lost. We're off the road, and he goes and finds us and tries to bring us back. And some of us are hurt badly, and he binds us up and heals us. And that chapter just really got to my heart. It made me cry a lot. But Christ isn't queer like me, but he caused the same discomfort when he goes into spaces where religious people are. And I do the same, but there are religious people out there, like my church, who reflect Jesus and love me. And I hope you will get to know Jesus more and more as you live. If you don't know him, get to know him. Because those people in churches who hurt us don't reflect Jesus. They don't reflect him at all. They look kind of like the devil myself. But there are those who love us and are wonderful people. And this is where I'm going to end today. So, get to know Jesus and live out your true life, who you are. You're going to upset the bucket. You're going to make people uncomfortable. You're going to make them face their fears. But live who you are, who God made you. Don't hide it. They won't change unless they see the person you are. So I'm going to pray. Holy Father, I just ask you to be with those who are listening to me. I ask you to watch over them. The ones that don't know you, draw them to you. Let them know the joy of your love, Father. And help us through each day. Lift us up when we are down. And let us glorify you through each day. In your name, Jesus, I pray. Amen. So, that's what I have for today. Yeah. Once you understand that phrase, Jesus, the queer Jesus, you understand that he upsets things like we do. So goodbye, and God bless you.